Hi guys, this is Annette with Annette's Astrology Corner, and I'm out in the rain, just chilling, thinking about April, and I thought I would have a chat with you about it because, wow, what a month April's going to be. Okay, let's start with the fact that about 2 weeks into April, Mercury goes direct in Aries, and then there's a new moon in Aries on the same day. Let's talk about that a little bit. You're definitely going to be moving forward with something that you deeply identify with, that's for sure. It could be something that was once linked to your past, but now you can move forward with it, or it could be something that you're letting go from your past and you now have the ability to move forward. Whoops, sorry. It's raining and my little wet paper is getting wetter. Then a couple days later, Chiron goes into Aries, and this is where I think the energy is going to go through a major shift, because at that same time Saturn goes retrograde in Capricorn. Then that same week the Sun enters Taurus. So if I just talk about those energies together, so I find it very interesting that at the same time we have Mercury, the planet that rules our mind, our immediate environment, the things that we react to, is going to be Aries. It's going to move forward. At the same time, Chiron goes into Aries. So I really think that we're going to have to be resisting some deeply personal wounds, some issues that make us feel kind of weak, maybe some issues that weaken our self-confidence. When we have that transit that's going to go into Uranus and Aries, you can expect things to come up that you didn't know resided in you. And these issues have to do with some sort of painful recollection, or maybe some wounds, or maybe some issues where you're just having a little bit of an identity crisis with that particular area. So it could be something that, like we've been talking about, if you've been listening to any of my videos, there's just this, your sense of self is now identifying with a new path, with a new direction, with a new mission. You're pretty determined to get that area of your life that you want now that you identify with it. But there still is some residual identity issues from your past that you still got to work through, and you've got to turn those weaknesses into strength. So you got to essentially make lemons out of lemonade in that particular area. So you've got to not see it for the weakness that it is or was, or that you've associated with it. You've got to see how you can tie it into personally empowering yourself and allowing it to give you the momentum to not be that person you used to be, but to continue to move forward in the person that you are right now. This can be very, very difficult when we're going to have some very intense aspects this month. And one of the things that happens is when Saturn goes into retrograde, at the same time Chiron goes into Aries, Saturn is going to go retrograde in Capricorn. That's intense stuff. That's really dealing with how we pursue things. That's really dealing with the way that we achieve our goals. Do we achieve them aggressively? Are we really determined? Do we have enough determination? Do we have enough willpower to endure the treacherous road ahead? Or are we going to fall back on the victim mentality, get really wrapped up in what we lost, what we didn't get, what we wanted? And if we really just start to and it can be hard. You might go through bantering back and forth between the past and the present sense of self as you kind of separate yourself more from that old identity. It's like it becomes less and less appealing to identify yourself with the past sense of self than the future sense of self. But how complicated is that? When you think about the years that you spent developing the old sense of self, the old relationships, the deep-rooted belief systems, deep-rooted things that you used to identify with. I mean, these things go really deep. into your sense of self. They have developed your sense of self up to this point. And so think about how hard it is to, even though you know the direction that you need to go, to struggle with the sense that, I feel like some of us are going to be struggling with those feelings of it not being fair, of it not, last month wasn't just, it wasn't fair. Something may have happened that wasn't right. It was a loophole. It was this, or maybe you didn't get the recognition from that struggle that you desired, or maybe you didn't get the judgment from that, controlling body, or, that organization that you wanted, or maybe you didn't get the decision that you wanted, and you took it personally, and it really shook your self-confidence. And for some people, that makes them more determined, and I'm shivering a little because it's cold and it's rainy and it's, so I'm a little cold. But I really need to go out in nature and get away from everything when I do these. It's just the only way I can kind of stay focused. It's even worse when I'm in a retrograde cycle. So having a new moon in Aries at the, a couple weeks into the month and then Mercury going forward, you really want something, but having Saturn go into retrograde, and then later in what is it? Let's see. It's only a few days later that Pluto goes retrograde in Capricorn. And that can go one of two ways. I've really thought about the power and control issues that can happen this month. I've really especially since at the very end of the month we have a full moon in Scorpio. And one of the things I'm really worried about is for the people that feel victimized, or feel like something is not fair, or last month really took a toll. It really shook their self-confidence, the awareness was just maybe too much. That it can make them aggressive and defensive and argumentative and impatient to get what they want. And they may take on a role of, just bickering and fighting and demanding what you think you deserve. And there can be a sense of entitlement in your mind that you deserved that you didn't deserve this particular fate. That when you look back and you see that you were a hamster on a wheel and there was some sort of karmic lesson that has been assigned to all your suffering, it can make you feel vengeful. It can make you feel just downright angry that you had to endure the challenges and struggles that you did. And I can understand, Francis, honey, don't eat that. I guess it's grass. Oh, beautiful fish are just jumping out. So one of the things that could come out as we're like really getting down to the nitty gritty of everything. Remember I said we're stripping everything back. We're talking about basic needs and wants, and the anger and the just the need for satisfaction, right? That could be very dangerous when you have Pluto going retrograde and then a full moon in Scorpio kind of dragging down the energy into a lower vibration. It can make you feel downright self-destructive, right? It can make you not give a crap about the ramifications of your actions. You can work out of sheer impulse because you're angry, because you're determined, because you feel that you deserve something from it and you didn't get what you wanted. It's kind of like a little kid that throws a tantrum when they don't get the toy they want in the store, and the parent's trying to teach the kid that the bigger lesson in life is you don't get everything you want. And so they're doing their parental role, but the kid just sees, I'm not getting what I want, I'm going to throw a tantrum, and I'm going to try to manipulate the situation to get what I want. That is the kind of energy I feel that could come out of this month. The other types of energies that I could feel that could come out of this month is regression. Regressing into the past sense of self. It is easier to do things the way you've always done them. It is easier to identify with your old sense of self. Wait a minute, I gotta see where my dog is. Francis! Oh, there you are. Please don't die. Hi, there you are. I just was worried. Sorry about that. I get really worried about his little goober self because he just has no, like, big picture in his head. He just wants it and goes after it. I feel that this is a month where lower vibrations can take hold very easily of situations, especially if you're dealing with power and control issues, especially if there's an authority figure that is trying to tell you what to do. Wow, is this not a month for you delegating or telling people what to do? What could happen is you could just, the impulse would be, don't have to tell me what to do. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to do it. And there could just be a fight that breaks out because of this simplistic mindset. You may not be looking at it from the parental mom that's saying, no, you can't have that, because they're trying to teach their kid this big lesson. You may not see what the universe is doing in your life right now. And so there is a lot of anger, resentment. There is a lot of, you just feel like you're not getting what you deserve. When we get in that lower state of mind, we can easily tap into the lower energies that are going to be quite prolific this month. And my fear is that you can obsess over what you didn't get that you wanted. You can start to focus on the wrong things. Instead of taking all this energy and empowering your situation and looking at it for what it is, and it just is what it is, and moving forward and taking that energy and helping it redefine you, let it expose your weaknesses. Let it show you where your sense of self is not strong. Feel the vulnerability of the parts of you that you need to change, and really let those sink into how distasteful that is to feel those feelings and how unwanted it is to see yourself that way. And then take all this power and become goal-oriented and create some discipline in your lives and change these things about you that you don't want. There is that ability and there is that possibility in this month, but I feel that many people, there is going to be an explosive energy in this month. And it is hard when we are dealing with ourselves on this level. When we are dealing with our vulnerabilities and they are defining us. People could be arguing with you about your vulnerabilities. They could be just identifying you with maybe some past mistakes that you've made. And you're trying to progress forward and they won't let you. So there's this feeling of animosity of like, I don't need you to keep redefining what is wrong with me. I really need you to define what is my potential, because that's where I'm at. I'm in my potential. I am in my self-re-identification process. I am very well aware. I don't need you pointing out stuff about me. What also can be very intense about this energy is just on a global, on a political, on a authoritarian point of view. This is going to be a month where if some of you are unhappy with the powers that be, the things that have control over your decisions, your ability to move forward, the things that hold you back, the things that constrict you, the structures that no longer work, they're not feasible anymore. This is a time of war energy. So this is that anger, this is this very, very aggressive energy. This is very, very destructive energy. And I have a feeling that April is going to be a catalyst for some very intense power and control struggles for many people. And it is going to have to do with a lack of control. So one of the things I've thought about just on a personal level is just, it can be very difficult when we are in a state of vulnerability to feel like we have any control over our lives. And so you just lash out irrationally at everybody at anything that challenges your authority in your own life. You know, the power to have the say in your own life. Like that's just so annoying. And so it can be very difficult for many of you to not want to take control. And in a lower vibration, and I'm really going to talk a lot about the lower vibration because I think this month just has the ability, oh, I'm sorry with my finger, to become very, very low vibrational. And I'm just saying this, I really want to put this out there because I really believe that we can choose positive energy at any time in our life, but we got to know the months that tend to drag us down in a lower vibration so that we can take that energy and use it to lift us out of the lower vibrations. If you experience anger, if you experience vulnerability, if you experience times where you are not being taken seriously, where you are not getting the career advancement, maybe you didn't get the raise you wanted, maybe you didn't get the, like you applied for a job, you didn't get it. Maybe there was just difficulties. It seemed like there was a power and control issue everywhere, every time you turned around. Use all of that energy that tries to stop you, tries to control you and restrict you, and use it to your advantage. That would be tapping into what a Saturn retrograde in its highest power would be. And Pluto in retrograde is to take a look at your past and think, okay, gosh, there was a parallel time in my life that I identify right now with. And I had this challenge, and there were these resources that really didn't work out that time, but I'm really going to see where those resources can lead me now. I want you to understand that, and I didn't go into it enough because I got distracted by a dog. Gemini risings, I swear it's like, bah! But one of the things that I want you to really concentrate on is timing. Everything is about timing. So if you are impatient about a process, you're impatient about something that you want, you're impatient about not having enough control over an issue, understand that that is where you lower your own vibration. That this is a time of really developing the thing that I think is weakest in Aries energy is patience. And just that need to have it right now, that entitlement, that need that they deserve it. That's a difficult energy because at all points, everybody on this earth has felt at one point or other that they have deserved something that they didn't get. And you really got to work with those feelings. You got to sit with them and you got to identify them, and you've got to see what is it generating in you? Like what feelings is it bringing out of you? And then you've got to work to take those feelings that you use to sabotage your life because you either break out into some aggressive fight, or you act like a petulant little child, throw a little tantrum because you don't get what you want, or you just sabotage, run away from it because, it's just too hard and you don't want to deal with it. You don't want to face it. So you just run off and go pursue something else that is fleeting and that catches your eye right now because it gives you that immediate satisfaction. And those are all super low vibrations. Super high vibrations of sitting with energy like this, getting caught up in the feeling of, what am I feeling? I'm angry about what I didn't get that, or that was not fair. Last month something wasn't fair, or maybe something happened over a period of time that hasn't been fair to you. And what does that really make you feel like? And change in that area of your life. Because Pluto in retrograde and all this Capricorn energy, you got Saturn in retrograde, you got a full moon in Scorpio, you're going to be changing something. There's change coming. No matter how much you are resisting the change that's coming, it's coming. And there's nothing you can do to stop it because you're too awake, you're too aware now to identify with who you used to be. And you've leveled up and there's no going back. You're getting a do-over, yeah. And there's some residual side effects from that do-over. You know, you're kind of like this feeling of like that feeling that it's really hard to let go of some of the old patterns, some of the old situations in your life that you've been resisting on letting go of, but they no longer serve you. And that's important to note. I'll do a lot this month. I have some when I have time. You know, I'm moving, so like a lot is going to change for me, and I'll squeeze these in. These are like my quiet times where I get to talk with you, and I get to just work out all this stuff in my head, because talking to you talks it out of me too. So it like, you know, it really helps me make sense out of all of the messages that I get. I'm going to leave everything with this little story. I'm moving, and I am a habitual person, and I like everything. No, Francis. No. I like look at him. He's gonna be bad. No, please don't do that. And I like things to stay the same, and life is just not having it right now. It's not having it. And I identify there's a comfort in my life that I'm having to let go of, to move, to start over, to re-identify myself. And I've struggled with my fears. Fears are huge. You can't go through a Pluto going into retrograde. You can't go through Aries energy and Chiron and a Saturn retrograde and all this self-work without having a discussion with your fears, without having your fear start to manifest in your life, and those demons, you start to have to face your demons. Like, it's very, very real. And that demon work is hard. It's hard to face that you have those weaknesses, especially if you are a person that doesn't identify yourself as a weak person. You identify yourself as an aggressive, assertive, just a little bad butt. But everybody has them, and they're coming up, because it's almost like there's something trying to control us from moving forward. There's something resisting us from moving forward. You know, it could be people in our lives that we're having to dissolve. It could be jobs in our lives, whole careers that we no longer identify with, that we're moving away from and going in a different direction. We could be taking our career and defining it and specializing it and centering it in a specific area, but people are resisting maybe that change or that move, and they're trying to control you because they want something. They want you to be who you used to be, and you're not that way anymore. So the direction of your entire creativity is going a different way. It could be that you simply change the way you look. You know, you make yourself over, and you start to really make your identity reflect your inner identity. So some people are doing that. Like, you know, like, say if you were a person that always identified yourself as a man, but you were born as a woman, maybe this is the time you actually start to pursue the fact that maybe you should start checking into resources, and you maybe should start seeing what programs are out there available for your transition work. There's so much to this energy, but it all boils back to what you identify with. So for some people, politically, they're very wrapped up in what is going on in the world, and the power and the control issues and the structures that need to change. So if they deeply identify with that, and they're angry, and all this lower vibrational energy is out there for them to feed off of, all that anger, all that hate, all of that disappointment, disillusionment, and because they're trying not to address the situations within inside of themselves, they're focusing externally, because it is always easier to focus on everybody else and everything else that takes away your power. But it's really hard for you just to, focus on your own power and personally deal with the structures and the powers that be and the things that control us and overcome them on a personal level. We just want to change the structures, the power and control structures in the external environment. So we just want to pass bills and get caught up in the law and get caught up in politics. And we think that by identifying the problems with the exterior world, that we're going to get what we want. But that's just such bullshit. It's so off the mark, because we didn't go through a Uranus and Aries transit and then fall into a Chiron and Aries transit without first looking at all of the things that need to change, right, on a very radical level, and have things come up and shake everything up for us not to identify strengths and weaknesses, and then develop the strength and overcome the weaknesses. That is what this is all about. Yes, we do need to make changes externally. We do need to band together and collectively come to some power together that can make changes. But we can't do anything if we're not solid in our sense of self. If we don't have a strong foundation, if we are not respectable, if we are not self-assured and confident in the fact that what we're doing is all for the right reasons. It can't be because we're working out of our fears. It has to be because we're working in our highest sense of self. And that would be, if you're really working in the highest sense of self, then you are so settled with your sense of self and so at peace with your sense of self that you end up working out of selfless ventures. You start to take up powerful causes, and you start to really identify with peace work, and you start to really you don't identify with war to get what you want, overpower and conquer. No, you work with the ways that you can peacefully solve problems for the greater good of humanity. But you can't do that if you're working out of your fear, if you're working out of your anger, if you're working out of your disgust for the world. And that's what your identity is all wrapped up in. So, yeah, pretty freaking intense month. And we'll talk a lot. But I just saw the month and I was like, holy crap. This is the month I'm choosing to make all of my decisions to move, just move and radically change my whole life and go in the direction of my dreams, my wants, my desires, and, just really trust that I have enough strength to do this in a month of when you've got Saturn in retrograde and you've got Pluto in retrograde, you've got a full moon in Scorpio. That's always been brutal for me, those moons in Scorpios, because when you got a moon in Scorpio, that crap dives deep into your emotional stability. And it really brings forth the demons. And it really, and the ways that it can do that is secrets, lies are revealed, deception, obsessive tendencies can come out during this time, just because this lower vibrational energy is making you feel vulnerable. I'm really going to try to focus all of my energy on the most positive aspects of malefic energy and use it as a catalyst. And I believe that this month is a giant catalyst, guys. It's a catalyst where we are making changes and we're not going to have much of a choice, because the energy is so, oh my gosh. So I watched Ghostbusters 2. And in Ghostbusters 2, the slime reacts to negative energy. If you cuss at it and scream at it, it bubbles and gets bigger and wider and bigger and, more, pronounced, right? Gets higher in the jar and higher in the jar, and then it bursts out of the jar. But if you sang to this slime, emotionally reactive slime, then it danced and it did all this powerful stuff, and it made you feel like love, peace, and happiness. But if you were attaching, if you were yelling at it, then it really just brought down your energy. And I so feel like that's what it's about. So my faith was shaken after I saw this month, and I'm just in general a scared person. I'm doing all of this alone, going to a place where I really don't know pretty much nobody. I know one person. And I've never been there. So like things are falling into place and resources are becoming available to me, and it definitely is the direction I know I'm being pointed in, but my fears are definitely coming into the forefront. And the fear that I feel like I'm feeling is, I see all the things that could go wrong. That is very indicative of all of this negative vibrational energy. And when you've got all these planets dropping into retrograde and you're just looking at all of the things that could go wrong, it is very, 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 very stressful. And so I started just having my confidence was getting shaken, and I just started thinking about all the have-nots in my life and the failures and the ways that I have made poor decisions and the results of all of those. And it was all this retrograde energy was really seeping into my brain. And then I just felt like the universe was like, I'm not having it, right? Not having it, Annette. He showed me this girl. I don't watch TV. And it just so happened that, on one of the suggested things, he showed me this girl that was going to school, and she was in a music program, and halfway through her music program, she became deaf. So she had to give up her whole entire life, want and desire to study music, because she literally couldn't hear it. And so she enters the X Factor, I think that's what it was. And she gets up there, takes off her shoes, and she uses a phone to see pitch. And she just sang such an exquisite song, and I started just bawling my eyes out. And I'm sitting there thinking, I have 2 arms, 2 legs, I'm healthy, I've got resources coming at me right and left. And here's a girl who's deaf, so in tune with her passion, her wants and her desires, that she's going to find a way to make it work. She didn't get caught up in the fact that she was deaf and how could they take her hearing, it's all she ever wanted, and victimizing herself over and over again and literally not finding a way to keep her passion alive. So many people do that. We stand in our own way and we start to self-sabotage all of the resources and all of the gifts that is out there in this world for us to manifest our potential. We intentionally do it to ourselves. Okay, I'm not going to say intentionally. We, on an unconscious level, sabotage ourselves. And then consciously, I think what we're consciously connected to is we don't want the disappointment. We don't want the struggle. We don't want to build the discipline and the determination, and we don't want to focus on that, because that's hard work, right? We can just go and play the victim mentality, victim card all we want to. That's way easier, because then we can stay stuck, and we can use up all the people in our lives to really enable us and allow us to be failures. But this girl is not somebody I can get out of my head, because she's brilliant. She didn't look at this. She thought, this is a challenge. And her song that she wrote was Try. And it was stunning, because the universe took something from her that she deeply identified with, and she found a way still to connect to it. And that's stunning. That's the human spirit. That is will. That's what willpower has the ability to do. And I just thought that was lovely, and I needed it, and it fed me energy, and I'm still going. And it's because of some girl that I've never met that filled me with so much inspiration. And what it brought out? My Aries moon in me. Oh, hell no. Is some girl who's deaf going to overcome her challenge, and I'm not going to? Are you kidding me? You want to rev up an Aries, show them somebody who's doing it better, and then they'll do it. And they'll try to do it better. And that's the shit that's really good in an Aries. That's the yum yum. That's the scrumptious. Anyhow, I gotta get going. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you soon.